Okay, welcome to part 2. We ended part 1 very quickly, but you guys know how to do that, and if you're not sure, then look in your book in lesson 1, section 1.G. Okay, moving on now, we're going to talk about fractions. This is something that you've been doing since the beginning of when I came to teach you, so these should be very easy for you guys. I have no doubt about that. So with fractions, when you are multiplying, remember all you have to do is multiply the numerators first, then the denominators. Always check to see if you can cancel before you multiply, and always check to see if you can reduce after you multiply, because you may have missed something. So 4/3 times 7/5. Nothing that I can cancel, so I will multiply my numerators. Gives me 28. Multiply my denominators, gives me 15. Double check, nothing I can reduce. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as an improper fraction. In elementary math, you would never leave it. But now I am going to have you start leaving it, because more often than not, you're going to be using your improper fractions in other types of problems. So it's okay now to leave it as an improper fraction. It has to be reduced, but improper fractions are okay for now, unless I tell you otherwise. But what about division? 4/3 divided by 15/8. I know that looks like a minus sign. Let me color these in a little bit bigger. There you go. Okay. Well, remember, you take your second fraction, the fraction being divided by. So you take your second fraction, flip-flop, and you multiply. So 4/3 times, I flip-flopped, and now I'm multiplying. Gives me 32/45. And there's nothing that I can reduce, so I'll move on. 7/3 times 30/9. Check to see if there's anything you can cancel before you multiply. 7 and 9, nope, no common factors. 3 and 30, yes. This one has common factors. What's the greatest common factor? The biggest number that can go into both of them? 3, very good. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, 30 divided by 3 is 10. Now I can multiply. 7 times 10 is 70. 1 times 9 is 9. And I'm going to leave it like that, 70/9. Come up here to this problem. 2 1/2 times 5 1/3. Well, before you can multiply, first you have to change your mixed numbers into improper fractions. Remember how you do that. You just go in a little semicircle. Multiply 2 times 2, so multiply your denominator by your whole number. Add that to your numerator. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Keep my denominator the same. Times 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Keep my denominator the same. Now I'm going to check, is there anything I can cancel? 2 and 16. Their greatest common factor is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So I have my new numbers. I can't cancel anything else, so I can multiply. 5 times 8 is 40. 1 times 3 is 3. And I'm going to leave my answer like that. Now I'm going to move on to this one. Remember, that line, that fraction bar, means the same thing as division. So that's all I'm going to do is divide. So I have 3 1/3, so I'm going to change that into an improper fraction. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, divided by 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11/5. Flip-flop my second fraction, and multiply. So 5/11. Is there anything we can cancel? No. So we are going to go 50, 5 times 10 is 50, over 33. And that's how you do your fractions, if any of you forgot. But you guys are good to go with your fractions. Now we're going to talk about decimals very briefly in this part, before we move on to part 3 of your lesson. Down here I have your operations with decimals. First is addition. Addition and subtraction are done the same way. When you have, for example, this is 4, let me make those decimals bigger, 0.0016 and 0.021. I want to add those together. Well, my rule is that my decimal points have to line up, and it's the same for addition and for subtraction. So I start with my first addend, 4.0016. Then I go to my next one. I'm going to go ahead and line up my decimal point right now. So right after my decimal point is 0, then 2, then 1. I fill the rest of the space just by annexing zeros. Oops, this is addition. And I do that whether it's on the top or whether it's on the bottom. You annex zeros to fill the rest of the space. And you do the same thing whether it's addition or whether it's subtraction. And then you just add. 6, 2, 2, 0, decimal 4. And that's all you have to do. Take a look at your subtraction example. If you're not sure, it's on page 24 through 25, your subtraction example, but it's done the same way as addition. For multiplication, they do not have to line up. So 4.06 times 0.016. They do not have to line up. But when you find your answer, which for time's sake I'm just going to write out, you would get 6.946 for your answer. Then you count the total number of decimal places that you have. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you move your decimal point that many places. 1, 2, 3, 4. I only have 4, so I need to annex a 0 to make 5. Okay? Remember that from before? Hopefully that's familiar to you. Okay, and the last one is division, but I'm going to do that in part 3.